Hey yo, it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew as usual. We got Alpha Dean or Dean, and we got Spigs or Anthony. And Dean, why are we here today?
Well, we're here to meet the illustrious and, the unique Dan Gaston, the lead GM over for Invisible Sun and Numenera at Variant Games, I believe it is.
Variant Roles,
excuse me, an all-inclusive place for everyone to come hang out, a new take on RPGs, the tabletop idea. So, Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So Dan Gaston, you can find me on Twitter at MadSciDM. I'm a scientist by trade in the daytime and a Twitch streamer by probably too many nights, and as we all are these days. I started the streaming community Variant Roles that we kind of starting to take the approach of a community and a streaming incubator space for streamers all over the web, looking for players of all folks to come and join us. And yeah, I mostly GM Invisible Sun and Cypher System.
Awesome.
A man of our own hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't tell, first off, Dan, welcome. And I noticed lately we scientists and gamers is like a marriage made in heaven, because it seems to be very common with most of the people we interview. You're probably the fourth scientist that's also a gamer that we've interviewed within the last year, so that's awesome. But you touched on it a little bit, but what exactly is Variant Roles for our listeners that don't know, and what's your role with the company?
Sure. So we've been streaming now for about a year, just over a year. Started out as an outgrowth of my West Marches D&D game with a crew of people from there. We wanted to dip our toes in the water, thinking about podcasting, about streaming, that sort of thing. The podcasting never took off because it turns out editing audio is a pain in the butt. So we mostly stuck with streaming. We were running a single game until this fall, when we started a large multi-group 5th edition stream of Dragon Heist. Started bringing in lots of people, and I was running a lot of one-shots, mixing in Cypher System. And then as we sort of came into the new year, I finally got summoned the Black Cube and managed to get some people together to start that. And so it's a mix of stuff that we play on the channel, indie games, a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse, but my sort of personal focus is really on Cypher. And sort of some of the idea is to be a community of streamers. I want to bring in people, especially people who have been interested in streaming, but they're not sure, tech's a lot of, there's a lot of overhead. There's where do you start? And so we want to bring people in as a low key, just relaxing space where people can come and start streaming. And our happiest moment, I think, is as people sort of spread their wings and start doing lots of other stuff on their own too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
First off, your show is excellent. I've watched several of them, and I was binge watching a couple this week. So I recommend to all audience to please check it out. It's really great stuff.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, we've gone through 3 titles on that game now. It started as the Actuality Archives, and then it was Crime in the Actuality, and now it's As the Suns Burn, as it gets more soap opera like.
Did that correspond with arcs going on in the story, or did you just felt like changing the name, or
just as the players have found themselves, as the game has really cemented, I think we were always interested in crime from basically session 0 character building. Everyone wanted to do crime. And as we played more and more games, it got more and more sort of soap opera-esque. So we felt that a soap opera-esque title would
Dan, you just said a mouthful, so you know what? Now we just need to get the next chapter is As the Actuality Turns.
Yeah, that'll be part 2.
There you go.
But,
It's only been 2 minutes and we already had our first soap opera pun.
but yeah, so that kind of leads into our next question here is what is your like background or experience with gaming? Like, you know, when did you start? Like, how did it get going? When did you fall in love with it? And
Yeah.
how did you start running games for variant roles? Like, was that your brainchild? Did you work with some other people to get that started? Or, you know, tell us.
Yeah. So I first started playing tabletop games as when I was like 12, basically, the mid 90s, young teenager, friends in a someone's basement, the typical thing. I played all through high school. I played through my undergraduate, and then I moved a bunch, and sort of I fell away from the hobby for probably a little over 10 years through graduate school and postdoctoral fellowship. And a friend, it's probably a story a lot of people have. A friend was like, "Hey, you should check out this show called Critical Role." and then his next question was, "I really want to play again. Will you run a game?" And sort of dove back into it. That evolved into a big West Marches game. Some of us were sort of interested in streaming, and sort of I took the lead on sort of setting that up and had some of my players forming that kind of initial game that we started playing. And then it was sort of, I want to do a lot more, but it's a lot of work. Like streaming's a lot of work. And so the best way is to bring more people in. I want to play with more people. I want to play with as many people as possible. I want other people to run games that I can play in. And so we just started trying to open it up as a community and bring lots of people in.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was the first game you played? You remember what system?
Yeah, like as a teenager was second edition, AD&D second edition. Yeah. So we started with that and played through, and then 3 and 3.5. And
I started a second edition.
Second
edition forever.
Yeah. Like 95 or something.
I started with that old white box, guys.
There goes Dean gatekeeping again.
Never that. No. I want everybody to play. All right. So Dan, I'm going to ask a question now that they've, harassed me, told me I'm a gatekeeper. Why do you think using Cypher system is such a good fit for streaming? And on top of that, is there something in the Cypher rule set that you might want to change for a live game, or is it would be something that you might want to make sure came to the forefront for like maybe all games that were streamed?
Good. Yeah. What made me fall in love with Cypher when I first played it was how free I felt as a GM. Like I really felt like sort of back in the old days where it was sort of, here's a few rules, go do something with it. Like I just really felt empowered. The simplicity of just, here is a level of a challenge and then work from there, right? I just felt it made me feel free to just drop in a creature on the spot that's not from a book that I just made up in my head, and I just have to give it one number and I can run it. And I think that simplicity and freedom is what's really made it key for me, just in terms of loving it, in terms of like basically my favorite system, to it being really good for streaming. I think for base Cypher, if I was going to add something in for good dramatic streaming games, I love character arcs in Invisible Sun. I love how player focused it is. I like how clear of a story it can craft. And I think that's really powerful for the streaming format, is that sort of player driven narrative drama.
And that's what they said is coming for the revised edition of the Cypher system.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I backed that on the Kickstarter, and
I can't wait.
I think everybody in this group, every time we talk to somebody who knows anything about it, it's like this, anticipation.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Cypher revised is
it's going to be awesome.
Can't wait.
I know.
Speaking of Invisible Sun, I could see the difficulties of running Invisible Sun on the live stream. Maybe not so much now that we've recently got the PDFs, but what do you feel is an important aspect of Invisible Sun to convey in live stream games, and how do you feel running Invisible Sun a live stream opposed to at a table where it was designed for?
Yeah, I found that it's transferred surprisingly well. The barriers early on was that we didn't have any digital stuff, so getting things to the players was difficult, right? A challenge. Having all the text, so people could read stuff. Where we're all dispersed, it's not just that we're streaming it; like we're spread across the continent.
Yeah.
Made it a challenge. It's a lot easier now. I think one of the things that can be hard to convey, we try, is all of the things that happens off stream that is really important. We don't record our side scenes because usually most of our side scenes are text. We've got a couple channels in our Discord with some of our players, and the amount of like text-based role play these players pace me through on a daily basis is a lot.
It's like reading mini novels.
If I could just interject really quick, do you ever copy the text or save them in some way so that an audience could potentially read them later?
We could. We don't right now, although they're sitting in our Discord, so we certainly could. And that's a thing we've thought about. Some other channels, I take a lot of inspiration from Grant Ellis, obviously. And he had a lot of his side scene stuff as rewards in his Patreon, for instance. So we've thought about that, putting more things in our Patreon related to Invisible Sun, and that might be an option. Some of our side scenes are definitely real personal, and I think we want to hold on to them as players and GM a little bit like they're ours. But we like to at least give the summary of this is what our characters have been up to over 2 or 3 weeks of game time, or in-world time that's happened between sessions, and at least summarize it.
Do you think Invisible Sun will lend better to say the way Darcy did it, with an overhead view of everyone at one table and record it that way?
I think it can. Obviously the cube is so good, right? There is just so much there that I have yet to play the tactile in-person game at all. I've only played it online. I do use the cards because at least I can use the cards in front of me at the table. But yeah, I think it does miss that a little bit because it is such a touch things and move them around kind of game. But so far it's working great for us online.
Yeah, it's a great show. We saw the tactical difficulties that running something like that streamed would be. It's a very original game, and it's hard to highlight everything.
Yeah, and it would feel so satisfying to be physically turn over Sooth cards right at the table. The app is great, and I'm super happy it exists. But yeah,
and I can honestly speak to that because I was one of those people who I'm not going to buy it. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it because it's expensive. I can't justify. I don't have a dedicated group here.
Yeah,
and I got pulled in to play a game at Gen Con. And I was blown away, completely amazed. I was like, okay, I gotta get this. So when they did the renewed Kickstarter, of course I jumped on board. And honestly, I don't know if anybody really gets it, but everybody out there in web world watching our show, it is a phenomenal game. If you ever get the opportunity to play, and especially if you can do it in person. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, get a group together.
And if you want to learn how to play, watch Variant Roles.
yeah, absolutely.
The links will be down below.
Yeah, most definitely. But now that we're talking more about watching his show, whatever have you, do you have any advice for our listeners who might want to run their own streamed games? And GMing wise, what's the major differences between GMing for an audience online as opposed to GMing at a table for just your friends or whatever have you?
Yeah. So first of all, relax. Things will go wrong. They just will. Your tech's gonna go wrong. You're gonna have problems with your stream. Like, I've been doing it for a year. It still happens, right? Like, relax. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. That said, pay attention to audio. That's the single. If you're gonna make an investment anywhere, audio is where to do it. People will put up with crappy cameras. Like, just have a decent internet connection, good audio, and you're good to go. For me, the biggest thing to learn GMing for stream, I think that it's really taught me a lot, is pacing. Like, my pacing has improved immeasurably for like home games from streaming, because I'm so focused on, I have a 3-hour block. We're going to take a break in the middle. Like, these are the story beats I want to hit. This is the pace. And I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest difference on streaming, is having a more focus on pace.
Nice.
That's awesome. Al knows that that's my advice all the time for every game. I'm like, hey, you have to pace. You have to look at the.
And it's funny. He's laughing. I don't know if he's laughing about this, but he knows that whenever I run like one shot or whatever have you, I always plan that it's gonna be like 3 hours, and it ends up being 5, 6, or whatever. My pacing is trash right now.
I'm still learning. Like, you hit those lulls sometimes where things slow down, and it's hard. Right, it can be hard to push your players, but when everyone's on board with the fact, you got to be a little bit more on and a little bit snappier with stuff, and you as the GM, it's kind of your job to control it a little bit too.
Yeah, you got to read the table and know when to move on to the next scene or transition into something different.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because players will go on forever, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you let them.
Any one scene, and you know what? It's crazy, because as a GM, I'm very good at keeping the pace together. But as a player, I am notoriously like the guy who's going to go, hey, no, and I want to role play this scene too. It's bigger, So, since we're talking about, brought up the role playing games and different scenes and all that, how about you and like other games? I know you like Cypher and Invisible Sun. You said those are your favorites, but any other games that you have enjoyed or that you do enjoy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still enjoy D&D 5th edition immeasurably. It's a great game. We play it a lot. I mean, obviously it's on 3 nights a week on the channel. So that's great. In terms of other things that have been really influential for me, Dungeon World has been really influential since I picked it up. It really changed how I thought about structuring games, GMing games a lot, to the point where my home 5th edition game, like totally off-stream, physical at a table that we just started, I've mashed up a lot of Dungeon World and Cypher into that 5th edition game, like how I run it, how I do experience. It's bonds, it's intrusions, it's all of that. So that's been really great. I haven't played it a lot. We've played it on the channel, but some of the other like Blades in the Dark games like that have been really good. And I'm super intrigued by a lot of indie games that I have managed to read but not play. So Lasers and Feelings.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I love running that and playing it. So it's such an elegant, like simple thing that's so easy to just.
Yeah. So I've watched a bunch of that. There's one of the Corey Hickson, one of the players in our Invisible Sun game, showed us the I forget the title of it, but it's the hack of Lasers and Feelings.
Rocker Boys and Vending Machines.
There's
no,
a couple.
It's the Carly Rae Jepsen one, like Call Me Maybe or whatever.
I haven't seen that one.
It's all about having boy problems. Yeah,
that part sounds awesome.
It looks really good.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But yeah. So oh wait, no, it's not my turn. Anthony.
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
All right. He had me with Call Me Maybe.
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
How are we gonna do a Call Me Maybe game?
Man.
We spoke earlier, and you mentioned earlier. Your main field is in science.
Yeah.
How does bringing science affect your narratives in your games? And do you enjoy bringing your work life into your game life?
Absolutely. I had, I don't know if it's still my pinned post, but one of the things I really like to do is world build. And I'm one of these people where not a slave to historical accuracy, because that's crap. But when I'm world building, depending on what I'm thinking about, I do like to think relatively deeply about some of the scientific underpinnings of how things work. My background was in evolutionary biology and genetics. So like things like how are species related to one another, and why are all these humanoid species, and are they related, and like things like that are things I like to bring into my world building, mostly to inform like deep lore and aspects of the world. So that's definitely. And then when I get to play sci-fi games, so our Bleeding Edge transhumanist Cypher game that I run occasionally on Thursdays, I delve deeply when I can into genetics and artificial intelligence and things like that in my games. And so it's definitely a resource that I have at my disposal, so I may as well use it.
Yeah, I mean, especially
awesome.
with such a strong tool, I can imagine just the level of immersion is so much higher. Like you're hearing all these like technical little bits or whatever have you, and you kind of get into that mind space.
Yeah. You can throw technobabble like Star Trek, except it all makes sense and it's real.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
I mean, and I don't mean it, but I want to piggyback on Anthony's question here. So have you like seen any of these things that are out there? There was a speculative, what was it called? Almost Human, and I don't know, Almost Real, the series
Almost
that they
Real.
did on Kickstarter. And
No, I haven't.
oh, it's brilliant. They did two Kickstarters for it.
Okay.
I'll send you the links for it. You can take a look, but it's brilliant because literally what they do is they take our real science, our real biology, and then extrapolate, these awesome, strange creatures,
Yeah.
like I said, and I can't wait to like dump them into a Cypher game or a Numenera game or something.
Yeah.
That sounds very Numenera.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I was so glad that I, backed both Kickstarters,
But now that we're talking about Kickstarters, how do you feel, or what do you feel about the new Arcana of the Ancients Monte Cook Games Kickstarter marrying Numenera and 5e, and would you consider running that for variant roles?
I backed it as soon as it launched. I don't think I was necessarily in the first, but I think I was in the first like 2,000 backers or something on it. And absolutely 100%. I've never run Numenera. I have all of the books and I steal from them quite liberally as it is. My 5th edition campaign that's going on right now, which is Storm King's Thunder, is going to borrow heavily from Numenera and Cyphers in building out the Giants' ancient civilization. Oh yeah, absolutely, that will get run on variant roles for sure.
Nice.
And the Kickstarter is actually really steamrolling now.
Look forward to from Dan Gaston and variant roles coming in the future.
Yeah, so we're right now, our Dungeon of the Mad Mage is sort of the main community stream that's going on right now, so that's 3 nights a week. That's gonna wrap the end of May, so that's gonna free up a whole bunch of time in our schedule. We've got an Urban Shadows game that just started, so that's going for 12 weeks, so that's going to run through May and into June. We have a Ravnica game that is going to be DM'd by Alex Lacuarto, who's one of the players on the Invisible Sun game. Has put that together with a phenomenal group. They're just hammering out when they're going to start, but that's going to start, I think, end of May, 1st of June, somewhere around there, and run through the summer. So that's what we've got locked down. In addition to, there'll be some continuation of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We'll launch whatever our new community streaming stuff is going to be, which will probably be around Ghosts of Saltmarch. So like our community stuff tends to focus on 5th edition because I call it the gateway drug at this point of
Yeah.
TTRPGs.
You know, it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. You can't
Yeah,
escape D&D.
exactly.
I basically use it to bring people into variant roles, and then I've got my like Cypher and Invisible Sun stuff set up.
What about
And then
this?
I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, you want to play? And they're like, I've never played before, and it's like, it's okay. Most of my players haven't, and so I focus a lot on teaching people Cypher as we play.
And it's such an
in the
easy
Cypher
system
games.
to teach.
You know,
It's
it really
basically
is.
It's
three
the
core
funniest
rules.
thing. What we say is, you know, Dungeons and Dragons is that, like he said, 800-pound gorilla. It's well known by everybody, but like I've like, you know, it's been like, here, have some candy, little girl. You know, and that's how Cypher works. You know, like my wife had never played any RPGs. We met 5 years ago. Now, you know, she runs No Thank You Evil, and you know, she's like great at it, and it's funny, you know, she likes to play Cypher games, but
it also doesn't hurt that 5e is a well-designed system,
right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so easy and intuitive compared to previous editions to like run. I think it fits streaming pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.
In terms of its balance. So
you say you guys are running Ravnica. I own the book, but I have backed so many Kickstarters. I'm like 20 books behind right now.
Yeah.
How is that? Me and Al were big Magic the Gathering players at one point, so I'm really curious to see what. Have you read the book any?
I've read the book. We've used a few. I've used a few things from it out of context in other games. This will be another game where I am not running it or playing in it. I just get to be a fan and watch. So that's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. They've got a really solid crew of players. So Alex is running it. Samantha Darcy, 65th Victor, is going to be playing in it. Eugenio Vargas is going to be playing in it. Emma Hansen. I forget. He's got a stellar crew. It's gonna be pretty great.
When's the air times of your shows, so everyone knows?
So that game, I don't know. They're still locking down schedule. That's gonna be end of May. So if they follow the Variant Roles Twitter, we'll be announcing it. But yeah, all our other games are like, well, Monday night at I think 9 Eastern, Wednesday at 8 Eastern. So that game's on right now. Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and those are all Dungeon of the Mad Mage games, so those are going till the end of May. And then Invisible Sun is Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and that's going indefinitely. And then Thursdays, I occasionally, it's not every Thursday, but right now it's a lot of Cypher, and we're going to turn that into, I think, Thursday night Monty Cook mixtape. And it'll be alternating around between Cypher with Bleeding Edge and more Invisible Sun because more people want to play now. And that's usually at like 7:30 Eastern.
And you know, you're using that term mixtape. Just so you know, I have a product called Heroic.
You do.
You know, mixtape one. So you might want to use
we'll
that.
Have to feature it.
Yeah,
we'll have to feature it for sure.
Super one shot.
We get some superheroes.
Dan, you're a busy man, but you know we got rid of the easy questions.
So
excellent.
Those were the easy questions. Now we got to dig deep into your soul, pull out your essence with these questions here. Are you ready, Dan?
Excellent. I am ready.
Player or GM?
GM.
And pull punches or go for that TPK?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I've done both, but you know, you just kind of got to go for the TPK.
Oh, nice. We finally had an honest man here.
Online or in person?
Online.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay.
Yeah. It's just giving me access to way more people.
Yeah, that's true. Announce the difficulty number or keep it secret?
I mix it up. I do both. Probably about 50-50.
Ooh.
And salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Salty.
Nice.
Have a favorite snack for a bonus question?
Yeah, so most of my in-person games is a lot of chips. A lot of chips. Yeah.
RP, combat, or a mix?
Can I go for D, exploration?
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Nice.
Good answer. Good answer. Good. Is it on the board?
PDFs or physical books?
Ooh, there is something about physical books, but through my whole scientific career, I've been reading PDFs for a decade, and being able to search stuff takes the cake. So PDF.
All right. Pen and paper notes or digital?
Pen and paper.
Ooh, I would have guessed that with the
I
previous
know.
answer. That was a curveball.
I'm going to ask you the last question, but I have to say you have given like the most opposite answers of everybody who's been on the show so far.
I am a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
So pre-written adventures or original content?
Original.
Nice.
Yeah. I steal liberally from pre-written though.
Good answer. Good answer. Good.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in this group has ever ran a pre-written adventure as written.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I've done a few now because variant roles. We've Dragon Heist, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and just more and more. I'm like, I got to take the structure of it and then just mess with it.
Well, Anthony, tell them about your Gen Con adventure here.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony.
I mean, basically that's what I do. I use the book as a shell, and then I fill it in with whatever I want. I don't want to repeat the story because I said it like 3 times already. It's like the same story over and over. But I basically, the book is just a shell for me to hold my chips while I tell a story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was the rapid fire questions. Did amazing. Thank you so much. Your stellar answers. And that brings us to the end of our little discussion here. Thank you so much for being on. It was wonderful discussing all this stuff with you. Got to see a little insight into variant roles, and that was awesome. Hopefully that'll encourage more people to reach out to you guys, maybe find more players this way, whatever have you. So if you're watching, you want to get into streaming role playing, contact this gentleman right here.
Absolutely.
Or if you just want to enjoy good shows, watch variant roles. The more important thing.
Absolutely.
That's it. But thank you so much for being on. Like Anthony said previously, we'll have all your important links down below. The Twitter. Do you have a personal Twitter that you use that you like, or do you mostly use the variant roles one? Or
so if you want to follow me at MadSciDM on Twitter and at variant roles for variant roles, I'm on both. Sometimes in the same conversation, switching back and forth between accounts. It's it happens.
Dad is cursing himself out on Twitter.
What are you talking about? You don't know anything.
But thank you so much for being on. Thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to our channel, share the video out, get the word out, and from us at the CU, we will see you later.